The Deterrent Protocol. The Galactic Conclave had convened for its centennial gathering, and Commander Elena Reyes felt every one of her 43 years weighing on her shoulders. The sprawling space station Harmony hung in orbit around the neutral world of Proxima Centauri b, its countless gleaming spires and translucent domes housing representatives from over 300 sentient species. And somehow it fell to humans, the youngest and technologically least advanced members of the Conclave, to keep them all alive. Perimeter check, Elena muttered into her wrist communicator as she surveyed the Grand Assembly Chamber. The vast hemispheric room could seat 10,000 delegates, with holographic projections accommodating those who couldn't physically attend due to atmospheric or gravitational incompatibilities. North Quadrant secure, came the reply from Lieutenant Marcos. Though I've got 3 Eulerian delegates complaining about our weapons again. Elena suppressed a smile. Remind them of Protocol 47b. They signed it. Protocol 47b was the reason humans were here at all. The irony wasn't lost on Elena that the most advanced civilizations in known space, species with faster-than-light travel, matter conversion technology, and the ability to manipulate gravity itself, relied on humans with their primitive projectile weapons and crude combat techniques for security. Commander, a melodious voice chimed from behind her. Elena turned to see Ambassador Threll, his translucent blue skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated respectful greeting. The Prime Ministers of the Arcturus Coalition have arrived early. They request your personal attendance during their pre-meeting. Elena nodded. The Arcturians were particularly skittish around other species, but they'd specifically requested human security detail. I'll be there in 5 minutes, Ambassador. As Threll glided away, Elena's second-in-command, Captain Weijong, approached with a data tablet in hand. Facial recognition flagged something, Wei said quietly, his expression grim. 3 known members of the Dissolution Front entered the station using diplomatic credentials from the Rigelian Commerce Guild. Elena's blood ran cold. The Dissolution Front was a militant faction that believed the Conclave was hampering the natural evolution of species by preventing interstellar conflict. They advocated for a galactic cleansing fire to determine which civilizations were fit to survive. How did they get Rigelian credentials? Elena asked, already moving toward the security hub embedded in the chamber's north wall. That's the concerning part, Wei replied, keeping pace. They appear to be genuine. We may have a high-level infiltration. Elena entered her security code on the unmarked panel, revealing a compact room filled with holographic displays showing every angle of the assembly chamber and adjacent areas. Her team of 20 humans monitored the feeds, their eyes constantly scanning for anything unusual among the thousands of alien delegates. Pull up everything we have on the Rigelian delegation, she ordered, and get me a direct line to Talon Squad in the docking bay. Within moments, she was reviewing the Rigelian diplomatic roster while speaking with Sergeant Kincaid, who led the security team monitoring all arrivals. Sir, we've been processing incoming shuttles for 6 hours straight, Kincaid reported. The Rigelians arrived in 3 separate groups. I need you to implement Protocol Sigma, Elena said, quietly. There was a brief silence on the line. Protocol Sigma was extreme. It involved subtle but comprehensive scanning of delegates for weapons, explosives, and biological agents. It violated several privacy agreements, but right now, Elena didn't care. Understood, Commander. Sigma initiated. Elena turned to her central security team. The Dissolution Front doesn't act without a plan. If they're here, they're targeting someone big. Or multiple someones, Wei added. This is the largest gathering of galactic leadership in a decade. A young lieutenant working a monitoring station suddenly straightened. Commander, scans picking up unusual energy signatures in the ventilation system. Pattern matches quantum entanglement devices. Location: spreading throughout sections 12 through 17. They're small, probably sensor-sized. Elena's mind raced. Quantum entanglement technology allowed for instantaneous communication across any distance, perfect for coordinating a synchronized attack. Lock down those sections. I want teams in environmental suits doing physical sweeps immediately. As her orders were implemented, Elena couldn't help but reflect on the irony of their situation. Humans, with their relatively simple biology and technology, were the galaxy's premier security force precisely because of their limitations. Advanced species had evolved beyond many physical vulnerabilities, but had also become predictable in their responses. Their neural patterns were well documented and could be manipulated by sophisticated technology. Their sensory systems, often enhanced beyond human capability, could be overloaded or deceived. Humans, however, remained stubbornly unpredictable. Their threat response systems were considered primitive but effective, quick to adapt, difficult to anticipate. Their senses were limited enough to be reliable when technological countermeasures were deployed. And most importantly, they thought in ways that the galaxy's supercomputers still couldn't reliably model. The search teams reported back within 20 minutes. They'd found 17 quantum entanglement nodes hidden throughout the ventilation system, each programmed to activate simultaneously during the opening address. They're not bombs, we noted, examining the analysis. They're psionic amplifiers. Elena cursed under her breath. Psionic technology was banned in conclave space after the cerebral wars 3 centuries ago. It could influence the minds of many species simultaneously, creating confusion, terror, or rage. They're planning a massacre, she realized. Turn delegates against each other in the enclosed chamber. And the conclave tears itself apart from within. Way finished. Classic dissolution front strategy. Elena pulled up the station's security protocols on her tablet. We need to locate the control signal. These amplifiers will be receiving instructions from somewhere. The 3 dissolution front operatives. Possibly. But they'd need a backup trigger. Elena studied the station schematic, focusing on areas with minimal security monitoring. Her decades of experience had taught her that attackers, regardless of species, tended to think in similar patterns. There, she pointed to a maintenance hub near the central atrium. This junction connects to the assembly chamber's main power grid. It's the perfect place to install a trigger device, and it's only guarded by automated systems. Wei was already contacting a nearby security team. Moving to investigate now. Elena turned to her communications officer. I want a direct line to the Arcturian prime ministers. We may need to postpone the opening ceremony. Before the officer could respond, an alert blared across the security hub. A security breach was detected at the exact maintenance junction Elena had identified. Feed from Junction 42, she commanded. The central screen flickered to show a maintenance corridor where 3 figures in environmental technician uniforms were installing something into the power conduits. Their movements were too precise, too efficient for regular maintenance workers. That's them, Elena said. Team Alpha, converge on Junction 42. Lethal force authorized. The aliens in the corridor suddenly froze, one of them looking directly at the camera. In that moment, Elena knew they'd been discovered. The lead figure pressed something on his wrist, and the station's lights flickered. They're accelerating their timeline, Elena shouted. Wei, get to the assembly chamber and start evacuation. I'm heading to Junction 42. She drew her sidearm, a simple projectile weapon that many advanced species considered barbaric, and raced through the corridors. The station's artificial gravity felt slightly heavier as the power fluctuated, a sign that the attackers were already interfering with critical systems. Elena reached the junction just as her security team arrived from the opposite direction. The 3 disguised operatives had sealed the doors, but human security protocols included override codes for every door on the station. Another reason humans were valuable as security personnel. Breach in 3, she commanded. Stun settings only if possible. We need at least 1 alive. The door slid open, and Elena's team moved in with practiced precision. The first operative went down immediately, hit by 2 stun blasts. The second managed to activate some kind of energy shield, deflecting the team's fire. The third, clearly the leader, was finishing the installation of a device that pulsed with an ominous purple light. He turned toward them, and Elena recognized the distinctive ridge patterns of a Cavalian, a species known for their mathematical genius and emotional detachment. "You're too late, human," the Cavalian said calmly. "The resonance cascade has begun." Elena didn't waste time responding. She fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The first 2 were deflected by some kind of personal shield, but the third, aimed at the power junction itself, hit its mark. Sparks erupted from the conduit, and the purple device sputtered. The Cavalian's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "You would damage the station itself." "If necessary," Elena replied, advancing steadily with her weapon trained on him. "Fascinating," the Cavalian said. "This is why they fear you, despite your technological inferiority. You're willing to risk everything." Before Elena could reach him, the operative pressed a final sequence on his device. The purple light intensified, and a wave of energy pulsed outward. Elena felt a pressure in her mind, the beginnings of the psionic attack, but it faded almost immediately. The human brain, with its comparatively simple structure and chemical-based neurotransmission, was naturally resistant to the kind of psionic manipulation that could devastate more advanced neural systems. The Cavalian stared at her in disbelief as she continued advancing, seemingly unaffected. "How?" he began. Elena smiled grimly as she placed restraints on his wrists. "That's the thing about humans. We're too stubborn to be controlled." As her team secured the area and disabled the device, Elena's communicator crackled with wise voice. "Commander, we've detected psionic pulses throughout the station, but they appear ineffective. Minimal impact reported among delegates." Elena looked down at the captured Cavalian. They didn't account for the human factor, did they? The alien's expression remained composed, but there was a new wariness in his eyes. "The dissolution front will try again. The conclave cannot last." "Maybe," Elena replied. "But as long as humans are around, your job just got a lot harder." As she led the prisoner away, Elena reflected on humanity's unique position in galactic politics. They weren't the strongest, the smartest, or the most technologically advanced species, but they were unpredictable, adaptable, and willing to make hard choices when necessary. That was why, despite being newcomers to the galactic stage, humans had become the deterrent that kept the peace, not through overwhelming force, but through the simple fear of what they might do if pushed too far. The assassination attempt had been thwarted, but Elena knew this was just the beginning. As the galaxy continued to evolve, humanity's role as its unpredictable guardian would only become more crucial. The human factor. The interrogation chamber aboard Harmony Station was designed to accommodate prisoners of any known species. Environmental controls could simulate everything from methane atmospheres to high-gravity conditions. Neural interfaces could communicate with beings that didn't use sound or light to communicate. Yet Elena Rice had opted for none of these sophisticated tools. She sat across from the Cavalian operative at a simple metal table, a cup of coffee in her hand, and a paper notebook in front of her. "You realize this is pointless," the Cavalian said. According to his credentials, confirmed false, his name was Vendera. "My neural patterns cannot be read by your primitive methods." Elena took a sip of her coffee. "I'm not trying to read your mind, Vendera. I just want to talk." "A waste of both our time." Elena smiled slightly. "Time is something humans understand well, given how little of it we have compared to species like yours. I believe the average Cavalian lifespan is, 430 years. Vendera remained silent. "Meanwhile, I'll be lucky to see 100, Elena continued, leaning back in her chair. "Makes us impatient, I suppose, but also helps us recognize what matters." Outside the interrogation room, the conclave proceedings had been delayed but not canceled. Elena's team had located and neutralized all 17 psionic amplifiers, and the 3 dissolution front operatives were in custody. But questions remained about their intelligence sources and whether they had accomplices still at large. "Why the conclave?" Elena asked. "With your skills, you could have targeted individual governments, created far more chaos." Vendera's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of mild surprise in Cavalian body language. "You actually want to understand?" "Always." The Cavalian studied her for a moment. "The conclave is an aberration. It artificially preserves failing civilizations, preventing natural selection from determining which species deserve to advance. And who decides what deserves means? Evolution decides. Conflict decides." Vendera leaned forward slightly. Before the conclave, species rose and fell based on their ability to adapt, to conquer, to survive. Now, weak species are protected, dragging down the potential of the galaxy. Elena nodded thoughtfully. "And yet you used Rigelian credentials, a species that only survived first contact because of conclave intervention." For the first time, the Cavalian hesitated. "That's what I thought," Elena said. "Your ideology isn't quite as consistent as you'd like to believe." Before Vendera could respond, Elena's communicator pulsed. She checked it discreetly. "I need to step out for a moment," she told the prisoner. "Think about what actually brings strength to a civilization. It might not be what you assume." Outside, Captain Wei was waiting with a grave expression. "We've got a problem. Quantum signatures matching the ones we found are appearing throughout the diplomatic quarter, dozens of them." Elena's heart sank. A backup plan. How soon? Unknown. But they're activating in sequence, like they're building toward something. "Where's the nearest one?" Wei pulled up a schematic on his tablet. "Level 47, archival section. It's minimal security, mostly data storage." "That's where we start," Elena decided. "Get the teams moving on the others. And Wei, armor up. This isn't going to be simple anymore." 20 minutes later, Elena stood in the station's massive archival section, surrounded by data crystals containing the accumulated knowledge of hundreds of civilizations. Her security team had located a quantum device hidden behind a maintenance panel, but unlike the previous ones, this had no psionic components. "It's a different design," the technical specialist reported. "This looks like some kind of data infiltration system. It's extracting information." Elena frowned. "They're not trying to kill anyone. They're stealing intelligence from the most secure data repository in conclave space," Wei added. "This could compromise every government represented here." A realization hit Elena. The assassination attempt was a diversion. They wanted us focused on protecting delegates while they raided the archives. She turned to Wei. "How many of these devices have been located?" 23 so far. Teams are working to neutralize them." "Too many for coincidence," Elena muttered. This was planned long before the conclave gathering was announced. She studied the device more closely. "Look at the connection ports. They are custom designed for these specific data crystals." They knew exactly where to find the information they wanted. "Inside job," Wei suggested, "or exceptional intelligence gathering." Elena straightened. "Either way, I think our prisoner has more to tell us." When Elena returned to the interrogation room, Vendera regarded her with calm curiosity. "You've found the secondary protocols. Why steal information if your goal is to destroy the conclave?" Elena asked directly. The Cavalian's mouth formed what might have been interpreted as a smile on a human face. "Knowledge is necessary for precise destruction. We don't seek chaos, Commander. We seek directed evolution." Elena placed her hands flat on the table. "Who's backing you? The Dissolution Front doesn't have the resources for an operation of this scale. We have sympathizers throughout the galaxy, species who recognize that the natural order has been perverted by this. Cooperation." He spoke the last word with subtle distaste. "Species like yours." Elena pressed. "The Cavalian oligarchy officially supports the conclave." "Officially," Vendera acknowledged. "But many of us recognize that our advancement has been stunted. 3 centuries ago, We were on the verge of transcendence. You mean the cerebral wars, Alina corrected, when Kavalian psionic technology was used to enslave 4 sentient species, a necessary step in evolution. Alina studied the alien across from her. The Kavalians were among the oldest species in the conclave, with neural structures so complex they could process information in ways humans could barely comprehend. Yet for all their intelligence, they struggled with something humans considered fundamental: empathy. Here's what I don't understand, Alina said. If advanced species like yours are so superior, why do you need the dissolution front at all? Why not simply outmaneuver the conclave politically? Vendera's 4 eyes focused on her intensely. Because of you. Humans. Your species is an anomaly. Technologically primitive, biologically unremarkable, yet somehow disruptive. Your thought patterns cannot be accurately predicted even by our most advanced models. Alina remembered something from her history training. 50 years ago, when humanity first joined the conclave, there had been significant debate about their role. Many advanced species had advocated for restricting human involvement, citing concerns about their unpredictability. Instead, that very trait had led to humans becoming the conclave's primary security force. You fear us, Alina realized. Fear is imprecise, Vendera replied. We recognize you as a variable that cannot be controlled. That makes you dangerous. Before Alina could respond, her communicator buzzed urgently. Wei's voice came through, tense and hurried. Commander, the quantum devices are linking up. They're forming some kind of network across the station. Energy readings are spiking. Alina looked at Vendera, whose expression remained impassive. What have you done? Created the next stage of evolution, the Kavalian replied calmly. Alina raced out of the interrogation room, issuing orders as she ran. Throughout Harmony Station, her human security teams were working frantically to disable the quantum network that was rapidly taking form. But they were fighting against technology centuries beyond their understanding. In the main security hub, chaos reigned. Holographic displays showed energy surges throughout the station, and reports flooded in from panicked delegates. The devices are linking to the station's central AI, a technician reported. They're rewriting its protocols. Alina surveyed the situation grimly. Harmony's AI controlled everything from life support to communication systems. If compromised, it could trap thousands of delegates in a floating coffin. Can we shut it down? She asked. Not without disabling life support for half the station, Wei replied. But I might have something else. He pulled up a schematic Alina didn't recognize. When humans first joined Conclave Security, we installed analog backups for critical systems. They're crude, but they can't be hacked through the network. Do it, Alina ordered without hesitation. As Wei implemented the backup systems, Alina addressed her team. The dissolution front is trying to take control of the station. I need every available officer in environmental suits with manual supply vacs. If life support fails, we evacuate delegates through emergency corridors. The station lights flickered ominously, and several holographic displays went dark. A computerized voice announced, "System reconfiguration in progress. Please stand by for enhanced protocols." "They're in," Wei said grimly. Alina made a quick decision. "Execute Protocol Omega." Wei looked at her in shock. "Commander, FATS. Authorized only in extreme circumstances. I'm making the call." Protocol Omega was the most drastic measure available to human security forces. It involved physically severing connections between the station's AI core and its operational systems, essentially giving the station a technological lobotomy. Critical functions would revert to mechanical control, sacrificing efficiency for security. As her officers moved to implement the protocol, Alina returned to the interrogation room. To her surprise, Vendera appeared genuinely impressed. "Protocol Omega," the Kavalian said. "Fascinating. You would rather cripple the station than lose control of it." "That's the difference between us," Alina replied. "You see technology as evolution. We see it as a tool, one we're willing to discard when necessary." And that, Vendera said softly, is precisely why you were chosen. Elena paused. What do you mean, chosen? The Cavalian's expression shifted subtly. Did you never wonder why the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy would entrust their security to a species barely out of its planetary infancy? Why beings with technology that can manipulate matter itself would rely on humans with projectile weapons? A cold realization began to form in Elena's mind. The Conclave feared what advanced technology could do in the wrong hands. Vendera continued. They needed a species that would rely on instinct rather than algorithms. Beings who would make the hard choice because they could imagine the worst outcome. We're your failsafe, Elena said slowly. You're the deterrent, the Cavalian corrected. The species willing to pull the plug when sophisticated attacks compromise sophisticated defenses. Like now, throughout the station, human security officers were physically disconnecting crucial systems, reverting to manual controls, creating a technological firewall through deliberate regression. It was inelegant and destructive. Cutting-edge systems would take weeks to restore, but it was working. You planned for this, Elena realized. This whole attack was designed to force us to implement Protocol Omega. To test whether you would, Vendera clarified. The dissolution front serves many purposes, not all of them obvious. Before Elena could process this revelation, Y burst into the room. It worked. The AI is isolated, and we've regained control of the central systems. But, Commander, you need to see this. He handed her a tablet displaying the communication that had been transmitted from the station just before they severed the network connections. It contained massive data packets bound for destinations throughout the galaxy. They got what they came for, Elena said grimly. Vendera merely watched her, all four eyes unblinking. 3 days later, with the conclave proceedings back on schedule, and the station's systems partially restored, Elena stood in the observation deck overlooking the vast starfield beyond. Ambassador Threll joined her, his translucent skin pulsing with colors that indicated deep thought. The Cavalian prisoner has been transported to a secure facility, Threll said. His associates as well. Elena nodded. And the data they stole. Mostly outdated information, decoy files planted in the archives precisely for this purpose. Threll's skin shifted to a pattern Elena recognized as mild amusement. We anticipated something like this might occur. You used us, Elena said, not accusingly but matter-of-factly. This was a test of human security protocols. A necessary validation, Threll admitted. The galaxy is changing, Commander Reyes. Some species evolve toward greater complexity, greater technological integration. But such evolution creates vulnerabilities. Elena thought about what Vendera had said, about humans being chosen specifically for their unpredictability, their willingness to take drastic action. The dissolution front, she said. They're not what they appear to be, are they? Threll's skin patterns shifted to colors Elena had never seen before, perhaps indicating concepts humans had no words for. The politics of the galaxy are more complex than any single species can fully comprehend, the ambassador said carefully. But know this, humanity's role in maintaining peace is more crucial than you realize. Not despite your limitations, but because of them. As Threll glided away, Elena remained at the viewport, watching distant stars and the subtle movements of ships arriving for the continuing conclave sessions. Somewhere out there, ancient species were playing games of strategy beyond human comprehension. Yet they had chosen humans, with their primitive weapons, their short lives, and their stubborn unpredictability, to stand between them and chaos. Perhaps, Elena thought, that was the true strength of humanity, not the ability to conquer or control, but the willingness to protect, to adapt, and when necessary, to pull the plug on systems too complex for their own good. The galaxy might fear human unpredictability, but it had also come to rely on it. And as long as that remained true, humanity would continue to serve as the deterrent that kept the peace, the simple solution to complex problems, the human factor in a post-human galaxy.